Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to take a few minutes of your time. This video is directed more towards Christians. The topic of discussion here is Jesus' covenant. Now, from time to time within the Gospels, he makes reference to the covenant. For example, at the Last Supper, he speaks of a new covenant. But what is important is there are no laws or guidelines attributed to that covenant. Jesus never explains any rules or never elaborates on the covenant itself. Paul even speaks of one, but yet never attributes any laws to it. And furthermore, what Paul has to say is not important here. The rules and the laws have to come from Jesus. Quite simply, in the Old Testament, Yahweh laid forth the 7 covenants of Israel. And they were renewed time and time again. However, the lawmaker Moses doesn't even make a covenant. The covenant is handed down to Moses by Yahweh. So Paul's and the apostles' words in the New Testament are null and void. If the covenant is to mean anything, it has to come from Yeshua or Jehovah, as the Christians would call him. And they are completely null and void. They do not appear anywhere. The 7 covenants that are laid forth by Yahweh are the covenant of Eden, covenant of Adam, covenant of Noah, covenant of Abraham, covenant of Moses, covenant of Israel, and the covenant of David. Now, the covenant of Israel found in Jeremiah 31:31 is very, very important. It applies to the house of Israel and to the house of Judah. Now, you could view this as the tribe of Judah, which Jesus' Davidic lineage has to tie back to in order to validate his messianship. For if it doesn't, then he's not a valid Messiah, and just one more reason why the Jews don't believe in him. What's important is in Jeremiah 31:31, there is a new covenant that's formed. But as I previously stated, it only applies to the house of Israel and to the house of Judah, or to the tribe of Judah. Now, the house of Israel is an interesting phrase because it could imply the seed of Abraham, who was also named Israel. Now, from the seed of Abraham stems all Jews, all Israelites. So we can take at face value that he's talking about all the Jews. More importantly, all the 7 covenants only appear in Old Testament Scripture. Now, when the first Christians appear up on the scene, they are also considered another sect of Judaism. They are not, while they are considered Christians, they're not considered a new religion. That new religion really doesn't manifest itself officially until after the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. Christians were viewed distinctly different from Jews around the beginning of the 2nd century, in Plinius the Younger's letter to Emperor Trajan, but they are still Jewish in flavor. What is important here is, I guess it's a question more directed to the Christians, if they can find anywhere in their Bible the laws and the guidelines and the rules that are applied to this covenant, because it's never elaborated on more specifically by Jesus himself. So Christians today think they're under a new covenant, yet all the covenants appear in the Old Testament and were attributed to and associated with the Jews that weren't associated with Christians. That's important. And furthermore, in the New Testament, you'll never find any laws or any rules or any guidelines attributed to the new covenant that the Christians are supposedly under. It's non-existence, and this is another common fallacy laid forth by the Christian doctrine. Oftentimes, people will cite Hebrews 8 as explaining the covenant itself. However, Hebrews 8 is a retelling. It's just repeating what is found in Jeremiah 31. And like I said, that covenant only applies to the tribe of Judah and the Israelites, the Jews. Christians today are not Jews. They are Christians because they have their own religion. While they believe in the same Creator, They don't even understand the laws that they're supposed to abide by. And the covenant is a real stickler for me because it's so void in New Testament scriptures. I had somebody the other day talk about the two most important commandments that Jesus had mentioned. I believe it was in Matthew 5. I'm not 100%. Where he talks about thou shalt not, worship any other god. And he talks about loving your neighbor. He was only talking about the two most important commandments. Nowhere is the word covenant associated in any form, shape, or manner with the most important commandments that Jesus lifts from old Mosaic law. So, this is just another one of those confusing doctrines that Christians manifest on their own. And it's really an erroneous teaching, because there's simply nothing in the New Testament that would have one believe that the Christians are under a new covenant. And if they are, there are no rules or guidelines attributed to it. Why in the heck would Jesus create a new covenant and then not apply any rules or laws attributed to it? There's simply no mention of a new covenant in the New Testament. Although it's spoke about, Jesus is referring back to Yahweh's 7 covenants laid forth in the Old Testament, which do not apply to Christians today. So just a little food for thought. I rambled on probably more than I wanted to, but I think that this is important to grasp for people to understand that they are in fact not under a new covenant. They are still under old Mosaic law, where Yahweh attributes 316 laws to the Jews, and then 66 laws to the Gentiles or the non-Jews, if they are to follow the Jewish doctrine and teaching. So, have a great day, and may the gift of reason light your way.